But let me move you to this next clip. Here is a conversation between you and Sheriff Terry Johnson, and let's listen to this conversation.
And I'd like to know, is the Sheriff's Department ever going to get body cameras?
It was in our last budget, but it got cut out.
Well, that needs to not.
We're looking for grants right now to try to do that.
Well, if we can find you $300,000 in bonuses, we can find you money for body cameras, because that protects you.
$1 million.
Well, you know, hey, I'm not going to say nothing, but I think that's that important, because other places have it and you don't.
I understand.
And that protects you and your officer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, Pam, there was your interaction. I believe that was the November the 18th meeting of 2024 when you asked that question. Good question, too, by the way. You know, we appreciate that. And I noticed that during the conversation, you'd ask him about that. And one of the big, I think, issues that one of the commissioners, Steve Carter, laughed at was the cost of it, you know, $1 million. Well, I guess my question is, and I hear this a lot, I hear people shoot off the cuff or say something that is not completely accurate. He said $1 million. Have you found out a cost for the body cameras for the county?
Heidi York, our county manager, I requested that she get me an amount. And she did. It was like $762,000. And then you're going to have storage. We've got, I believe, 2 years already stored that you can do different films, and like in the jail, they have cameras in the jail that they can watch and stuff like that. That's part of it. But that I asked that, I said, system-wide, the entire sheriff's department, not just this, not just that, but everybody. And that's the price she's given me. And I had a great conversation with her yesterday, because the sheriff's department is working on a grant. There's all kind of federal things that they can tap into, because, you know, the Department of Justice, I would think, would totally support something like this, because it plays both sides equally fair whenever you're filming something. But she said with them working on a grant, that might not be available till June or July. Everybody's fiscal year is not necessarily January to December. And I told her, I said, well, we need to get this done, even if we have to take it out of the general fund. And when the grant comes in, we can place that money back. Because I'm not one to wait unless I need to. And there's no reason, if we're talking about this and it's never happened, why we would want to keep on waiting. Yeah.
So, Sheriff Johnson, it is going to be close, maybe. So it may be close to $1 million. It may be, what, 800,000 or something of that nature. Okay, well, good. And he seemed like, he would be willing. You've actually been in conversation with him. He seems to be in for this as well, correct?
Yeah, I went by there last week, because I don't hang around the county offices. I'm not a micromanager. And so I just walked over there and I asked if he was in. If he was not in a meeting, could I have 5 minutes? Because I don't interrupt your day for me. Just put me on your book. And so I went in and I said, we need to talk about body cameras. He said, well, I want them. They were in my budget and they got cut. I said, well, I'm a manager and problems with jamming. And you just can't. These guns were 10 plus years old. And years ago, deputies bought their own guns, but that is not the case now. And that is a safety measure. And he said, Pam, I had to choose between the two. That just did it for me. I thought, why are we choosing between two mega safety issues for a law enforcement officer? And we just have to make room for this. This is so important. And Keith, it ties in with lawsuits, because we get sued a lot with the county, out of the jail, one inmate saying this, somebody on the road, all the time. We've had protests, we've had all kind of stuff, because we are a city, and it goes along with it. Detention officers, detention centers get some lawsuits. And our premium for the year for our property and liability for that, our insurance premium for the county is $1,168,744. Now, they base our premium the next year on how many lawsuits we had to settle or fight or win or lose or pay out. So as I think I've mentioned to you before, it's kind of like, if I keep having wrecks in my car, they're either going to drop me or they're going to raise my rates. And it's the very same principle with this. So to me, this is an economical decision as well. Also, the accountability, when I spoke with our insurance folks, they said this would favor us really well when it comes to having body cameras, because so many other law enforcement counties, they insurer do that. So I don't know what this is. I don't know why any of my commissioners would pull back on this, because we're getting ready to unload some other debt and go into debt big time. This ain't nothing compared to this. And I just think this is a priority. When you start doing law enforcement with caution and prevention and trying to, not be so over the top pants with lawsuits, it does pay for things. It helps with things. And it's all out of the same bucket. You just have to be smart with it.
Yeah, and that's true, and that's good. I'm glad he's in for it. I guess this is, as I was listening to these meetings, I've been clipping them and playing them back to, listening to myself. And this next one that I'm going to show you, Sheriff Johnson just there said, well, it got removed from the budget. My point was that why didn't you explain why we had to decide between one of the two? I mean, I think this is the whole point. I just want, as a citizen, I want to know what's going on. He said, well, it got cut from our budget, as though without any explanation. So I would appreciate Sheriff Johnson and any person who is elected to explain, to be clear to the public, because in this next clip I'm going to show you, here's John Paisley explaining why they were removed from the budget. Let's listen to this.
As to the sheriff's cameras, Ms. Thompson, I fully support that. It was in our budget last year, and the sheriff asked us to take that out of his budget last year and replace it with some other priorities. So this will be the second year in a row that we've considered body cameras for the sheriff's department.
So John said he is for body cameras, and he tells us why they were removed. He says they were removed because Sheriff Johnson asked for something to be removed, which now we know turned out to be the guns that were, he says, were jamming. I think you said they were 10 years old. Is that correct? Is that
10 years
correct?
plus old.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have faulty equipment.
No. And we would agree with that. I guess I'm saying I'm so suspicious of government and everything they do now. I want to know the stuff. I want to know, because I don't think people trust the government, period. They really have a problem. Yeah, go ahead.
And I just caught this because what John said, he says, this is the second year in a row, which means last year was the first year. Why is last year the first year? Why has this not been brought up in the years over time? And it's really interesting that all of a sudden, I'm asking about it. And last year he had to choose between body cameras and guns. When we'll start looking at the budget, and it'll come in there like, holy cow. And we start tweaking it. We link down, what can we absolutely not do without? What can we do without? You may have to wait till next year to get this, blah, blah, blah. But, I've never, at one time when the sheriff was coming in for bonuses, $10,000 a pop to help hire for detention mainly. And if it goes to patrol, that's fine. But the detention center has always been short. Good Lord, you see that across the country. First responders positions are short. Look at California. They're saying, oh my goodness, big. New York City, they cut out over $1 billion in their police department. And look, I mean, they're really hundreds of officers short. And you will see that when you start having crime and people killing each other on the subway and stuff like that. Thank God we don't even have a subway.
Well, these are liberal cities, these are
horrible,
states.
Yeah. Think about your people, and because that's who pays your bills. So anyway, we're looking at that, and I'm just really shocked that there's even any doubt. But we are building a tremendously expensive courthouse addition that you're going to get a cent tax raise next year on it. And that may be because you don't have to raise your taxes for this. We've got the money for this in general fund. We'll just have to really be smart and budget. But he may have to cut something else out in that when it comes to a car or two or something like that. I don't know. That's with the sheriff to talk about. But this, to me, is a no-brainer. It's just a no-brainer.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Commissioner Paisley's probably bringing up the cost because he knows it would likely be a quarter of a cent or half a cent tax increase. I'm just saying outside of what you're saying. And he knows that cent tax, that 1 cent tax increase is going to hit next year, 2026, I believe it is, for the Justice Building, which you're talking about. And so you're saying that we already have, the sheriff is already applying for grants, number one. Yep. And you're saying, but we don't have to wait for that to come around into June or July because we already have $20 million in our general fund. I mean, not our general fund. What do you call that fund, Pam?
which is your buildings, construction and stuff. And then you've got the general fund, which a lot of times you can, like one year, maybe my second year on the budget, they were looking at cutting this, and they seem to always go after the Veteran Service Office, and I won't go to war over that. I had requested another Veteran Service officer. That was the year that the Burn Act, where they had so many burns, the PACT Act, where the burn pits in Iraq, so many guys were getting cancer, the water with Camp Lejeune, just name it. There were all kind of things where new veterans were going to have to be filing disabilities. And I knew the line was going to get down the street. That year, they served over 8,500 veterans in our Graham Veterans Office, only 98 from out of county, which I don't care where you're from, you're going to be served. You serve this country. And but they were going to try and cut out the front end person, which is a crisis manager, because not every veteran that comes to the VSO is in a great mood. Their disability may be cut, they're not getting their amount of amounts, they're just one thing after another, door slammed in their face, and you need a really good front end crisis management de-escalation person at that front. Kind of like the front person at a school when mom's coming up and little boy's told a story and she's ready to kill everybody. Yeah. And so they were going to cut that out. And I said, absolutely not. And Craig Turner and Steve Carter and myself said, we will pay that salaries like $40,000 out of general fund, move that into there, because some things you just got to have. And this with this courthouse, right before Craig come off, he voted to move $5 million into the capital fund account, which will be building our buildings and repairs and all that stuff. It already had 10 million in it from COVID, whatever. And so that put it about 15, I believe. But that 5 million, I asked the question, I said, is that general fund or capital fund? And I was told it was capital fund. And I said, you understand, it's still taxpayer money. So, because if they hadn't have put that in there to help with the construction, it'd have been more than quote unquote 30. So we'd had to finance more than what we're going to finance. And plus, you got your taxes raised more than 1 cent next year on this courthouse, which I thought should have been put on the ballot for you to vote for anyway, since we did that with the educational bond. But that was a no. And that's why I've not supported this from the beginning. I just don't. But that $5 million is your money that moved to that other fund to keep you from paying more taxes.
Yeah, and so for people to understand, I'm just going to use a flat number here. I know these numbers don't match, but they took in, let's say they said they took in needed $100 million to $1 million for the county expenses, pay everything. Well, they took in $105 million, and so instead of taking that $5 million and moving it into the next year's budget or something like that, they take it off and they move it into the capital fund account. Is that right, Pam? And
right.
I just think that they need to really, really think about that, because most people are not aware of what's actually unfolding in that regard. So you're basically saying the money is there, we got the money, but they don't want to touch that $20 million fund that we've got. Is that? I mean, they could take it out of that. We could get the body cameras, file the grant money, file for the grant when it comes time, and then get reimbursed for that.
Keith, we've got that money.
Okay.
I've been assured by the county manager, and as soon as that grant comes in, because there's, like I said, there's so many different grants. I'm on the Governor's Crime Commission. There's grants all over the place, but their cutting has been cut almost 90%. It's insane, but whatever. But I've been assured that we have it. We can put it back in there, and we just need to move on this and get this done. It's that important.
I agree. And so I just bring those issues up because you're saying there doesn't need to be a delay. This could actually take place at the next commissioners meeting. You actually said in one of the videos that you were asking John to bring this up on the next agenda. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So when you get something put on the agenda, does he determine whether your request is valid and determines whether it makes it on there? Or do you as a county commissioner have the right to say, hey, listen, I'm elected to, put this on there? What does that look like?
That looks like we used to, or sometimes we can call. I communicate with Heidi, and I'll say, I would really like this to be put on the agenda. This is why we've went over this, and we need to stop beating this dead horse. And because it's things can get moved if they're just not ready to discuss them, but they're ready to be handled. We have to keep looking at this and looking at that. And you see this in court with continuances. You'll go to court, your lawyer continuing, and you keep continuing it till it's the right time to take it to court. But that we need to get this done, and there's no reason why. Government can be slow as a 7-year itch unless it's something that you really want. And then all of a sudden it's done and it's on the consent agenda, which means you just come in and vote to approve it and it's done. No discussion, no vote, except
Right.
that one big buy one, get one free vote, which I have to watch that because I think people need to know what we are voting on because it's their money.
Right.
I told somebody the other day, I said, you buy everything, even the drinks in the drink machine in a hall in a courthouse. You buy that.
So have you heard any update as well as, is it going to be on the next commissioners meeting agenda, or?
I will get that Thursday because they have to post it like 45 hours out. But I sent Heidi an email. I mean, I got a real good relationship with her. She's wonderful to work with. And I said, I want the grant status put on the agenda. I want Byron and whoever's writing this grant to come in and tell me what it looks like, when they're supposed to hear, because I need definites. Because if I'm going to bat for them on this, I need to know what I'm looking at. Because don't come up, oh, by the way, we forgot to file it. No, you're going to do your part. Everybody has to do their part. It's that important.
But the commissioners could go to the next meeting and say, listen, if it's going to cost $900,000, $800,000, $700,000, let's just take that out of the fund and let's go ahead and move forward and purchase the body camera. Is that correct?
You could make a motion that awesome. And I've seen it done. Craig's done some like that because they were that important with mold. They were that important with other situations. We had a deadline. And you can do that, but I am a leprechaun if that happens.
But this is not something new. I mean, it's not like it's the first time you're talking about. Y'all talked about it last year, John even said. So this is not something new. It's not something that's catching everybody off guard. Everybody's got to get caught up with. This is something people know a lot about. I mean, and from what I've heard, I mean, from Steve, from John, and from you, I don't know about Kelly. I think she said she was going to get with Sheriff Johnson I think he was looking into a grant or something. And Ed Priola, I'm not sure if Ed has spoken on the issue yet or not, but you still have 3 people right there that are for it. So
yeah.
It should be that simple. So let's listen to John. This next clip is of John bringing up the cost of the cameras, cost of the storage, personnel to maintain it, to access the information. He says it's going to have substantial salary, storage costs, in addition to the cost of the cameras. So let's listen to what John says in this clip.
The caution there is, cameras, you have a level of cost here for cameras. Guess what? We attorneys know you have cameras. What are those mean old lawyers going to do? They're going to issue subpoenas for the footage. So you've got to have 1, storage, 2, personnel at all times that can receive the subpoenas, preserve the information, report, do the testimony. You're talking about substantial salaries and storage costs in addition to just the cost of the cameras. Cameras are the beginning point. It's like saying, I'm going to buy a cheap firearm and shoot it. Guess what? You got to file bullets and maintain it, whatever else. And unfortunately for cameras, which we're going to have to do, there's a lot more cost for personnel, storage, and for a number of years. So it's just not as quick and easy as the cost of a camera.
So Pam, explain that to me. Okay, let's walk through that one time. Okay, he says it's going to cause a substantial salaries. If I'm not mistaken, you said we already have the personnel in the county to be able to handle this. Is that correct?
We've got a really strong IT program that already has to handle that when we're sued, and these filming of protests, filming of in the jail, filming of around the building or something like that, or a car that we were driving. We already have we already have to look at that, and you do get subpoenaed. That's what lawyers do. That's part of your case and your evidence. So this is nothing new, and we don't have to hire a whole new staff. These guys do IT. They're pros. This is what they do. All the cameras are breaking and entering outside of DSS. Where do you think that has to come into? Those cameras have to be subpoenaed. If you arrest a juvenile that's done that, my husband's had that before, and you have to get those cameras and show it in its evidence. So, yeah, all the Crime Stopper stuff, where do you think that comes from? I mean, it's already being done. And think about the money you can save if your lawsuits are canceled. Big time.
So substantial salaries, that's pretty much, you got people there that already can do this stuff. Okay. Yeah. And so initially you're going to have the cost of the cameras, of course. And then he talked about storage costs. Now you said, if I understood you right, we had 2 years. Can you explain that?
I think that's like your database, and you pay for so many years. So we've got 2 years. The sheriff himself also told that as well. So that would be an expense, but we're good for 2 years.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'm trying to think. So storage, we've got that covered at this point. Personnel to maintain and access the information, that goes along with substantial salaries because you got the same people that are going to be doing the same thing. Storage costs, we've already got the 2 years, in addition to the cost of the cameras. So I guess I'm just trying to I understand what I think he's saying, but I expect John to have done a little bit more of research as far as the things that you're telling me here. I mean, you've got answers for these things, and so I would have expected this to be. It just sounds to me like we got to do what he says, but there's something that's holding him up from doing that. And I wonder if it has something to do with that 1 cent increase at the end of this year, 2025, and fearful that they don't want to touch that fund balance money. They don't want to touch that. They got $20 million in there of taxpayer money, and had more than that. And
every month you get your sales tax, which have been really excellent. And I mean, I hope it stays that way, and hopefully with the new leadership, everywhere, it will, but we don't need to spend it. If we get 10 extra dollars, we don't need to spend $9.95. Exactly. That's the thing with government. It's like, I know whenever they were looking at bonuses, they were looking at like 5 times of $10,000 bonuses to increase to hire people in our sheriff's department. We are the highest bonus in the state of North Carolina. Wake County is $7,500. I sit with the sheriff in Wake County on the Governor's Crime Commission. And, I have, that's a lot of money. I'm really worried about bonuses. Well, anyway, and I just couldn't approve it the first time. Whenever I saw some results of it, I approved it the next time, but I'm kind of done with that. That's a whole lot of money when that could go for things that are more preventative and more outcome based. So, but yeah, we just, I think if it's something that you like a tax increase, because, it wasn't a whole lot mentioned whenever we were deciding this last time about the $3.14 million for the architect and the construction manager. And the time before we was talking about it, when they moved to $5 million, they were, talking tax stacks. And it was basically done that if we put $5 more million in the capital fund for this courthouse, that would cut out the possible, I think 1 penny is $2.5 million. That could have been looking at a 3% tax raise. So they moved money around that's mine and yours already, that we've already paid in taxes, and we're moving it over here so we won't have to pay it again, but yet we're still paying a penny.
Yeah, so, they're moving money around in the pots because, like you said, that money, that extra money that they moved to the capital fund, that money could have been used to pay for this right there. I mean, we had it. I mean,
but it's priorities, Keith. I'm just telling you, it's priorities, and we know where our priority is right now.
Yeah. So John, and the thing I think I'm saying here is when a person who is sitting on that committee makes a statement like that, people believe it. You know what I'm saying? People trust it. And so I'm saying, like when Sheriff Johnson made a statement about the being in the budget and then acting like, and to me, it was acting like, well, he just got cut out. Well, he knew why it got cut out. And it sounds like a good reason, but explain that. Just like Commissioner Paisley here now saying this about the body cameras, we've got the money to do it, but he's building a case. Well, we got to do it, but let me tell you why we can't do it. So I guess I just don't understand I do understand what's going on, but It's something that's got to be done. If anybody watches this video, we've got the money to do it, and then we can be refunded or whatever by the grant. So we'll move
Yeah.
from there.
I
So-
just think it, let me just make a final statement on that. I just think it's real important for people to know who is leading them, whoever that is. You just can't vote on people because you've known their name all your life. I think we're at a real point in this country. I'm talking about federal, state, local, anywhere. The PTO president. You have got to start looking at who you're voting for. No such thing as a perfect candidate. There's no perfect Republican. There's no perfect Democrat. But you've got to have a righteous leader that wants to do right by their public. And with this here, I'm a firm believer because I do this. I drive them crazy asking questions. But if I don't know, they don't know either. And
No.
if they're paying for it, they need to walk every step with us. The more open we are, the more trust the county will have in us.
Well, this is Alamance County Talks Politics. I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, let me encourage you to hit the like and the subscribe button. And if you're interested in contacting me, let me encourage you to email me at alamancecountytalkspolitics@gmail.com. And until next time, take care.